I went and I would join the Latin Kings. My first week in prison, I encountered a life flight, and the man got stabbed in his sleep, and it was the Latin Kings versus the Hebrew Israelites. And that was the first time I saw a man get stabbed in his sleep. And it was so crazy. And he ended up fighting the police, and he knocked one of the police out, and they ended up jumping on him, and they beat him up bad. Both those guys went to see him. One of the guys got life flighted to a helicopter to a hospital, almost lost his life. And the war broke out. And when I tell you that almost all the Latin Kings were getting shut down by the Hebrews, it was getting real bad. But the guy slept on the Latin King dude, and he stabbed him in his sleep, and he said, "Pray to Yahweh now." And he went to just stabbing him, and he life flighted him.
All right, good afternoon. This is State of Florida versus Stephen Testo with multiple cases before the court.
Yo, what's poppin', man? It's your boy E.I. King, and this is the Incarceration Podcast, where I talk about prison, pre, post, and present, and how everything that I experienced throughout my incarceration has forever changed my life. This is the Incarceration. So Forever Convict family, once again, we are on the journey to 50,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so now. Share this channel with somebody who hasn't.
Yo, what's good? All right, so right now I'm gonna go pull up on my dog, Danny. I first met Daniel whenever he just came home from prison, and I used to work with this prison reform organization, and I had a meeting with one of the head directors. Well, anyways, it was at a church and a transition house. And whenever we had the meeting, there were some guys who were at the transition house, and my dog Daniel was one of them. And he just came home, and very crazy, past street lifestyle, like, myself and a lot of guys in Block Hustle. And he knew about me from the prison tablets. So immediately, man, we just hit it off. You know how it is when you first meet some people and y'all just click. So same thing with me and him. We clicked instantaneously, and we just started building, just briefly on the phone. And so anyways, man, that's my dog. We always, stay in contact, and especially, making sure that his transition's been good. He's been following Jesus. He's on point. So yeah, we link occasionally, and actually, we even do ministry together. He's a part of Block Hustle. At times he hops on the small group discipleship Tuesday nights, and even joins us with street evangelism, just being in the trenches, proclaiming the gospel, making disciples of Jesus Christ, passing out Bibles, so on and so forth. So I'm about to pull up on him right now, see my dog, and so y'all gonna hear his crazy prison story. So he did 7 years, so I'm gonna let him share his experience of incarceration. Y'all say tap in. I'm about to pull up on my dog right now. So we gonna link with Daniel. What's up, Brody? All right?
My brother, how you doing, man?
How you doing, G?
God bless you.
All right, Daniel, man. Danny, my dog, bro. First of all, man, welcome to the Incarceration Podcast. We're gonna go ahead and just dive right into your story, bro. So go ahead and just introduce yourself to the viewer, and begin by sharing your story just briefly about your childhood, your upbringing, and kind of what led you into a lifestyle of crime that eventually led you into prison.
Wow, man. Well, I grew up in a lifestyle with gangs and drugs. My father was a Latin King. My mother was a blood Paru from the Bronx, South Bronx, New York. My mother got indicted, my father got indicted, my father got sent to prison. I only met him a few times, and it was a lot going on. I almost got taken away by DCF from my mother. We went to Philly, and miraculously we came down here to Florida. And I just followed that generational curse of just being in the street and trying to prove myself. Trying to be the baddest there was, the craziest there is, and I wanted respect and power. And I ended up being in a neighborhood gang down here in Tampa called we were located by Lato High School. We used to wreak havoc in the streets, always trying to fight, stealing, robbing. We ended up making alliances with other neighborhoods in Tampa, like West Tampa, Town and Country with the and things even got more crazier. We fell off, we was beefing, you know what I'm saying? So, we was just doing things like that, in the street. And I don't know, man, God miraculously got me out of that too. Got put on probation, and I violated probation with a technical violation, smoking marijuana. First violation, they sent me to prison, And when I got to prison, they sentenced me to 7.5 years in prison. And I remember when I first got there, I was nervous, I was scared. And they were telling me that you're Latino, you're good. You're always gonna be straight. You're Puerto Rican, right? I'm like, seguro, papi, yo soy boricua. So, right there, I was already embraced by the Spanish community. But at the same time, when you're in prison, you don't want to look soft. And especially the way I grew up, I wanted to be in prison and I wanted to show that I was crazy too and I wanted respect and no one was going to step on my toes. So I went and I would join the Latin Kings. And what we did was I was on observation from the beginning. And you go through 3 stages. You go through observation, probation, and then you join the gang. You get initiated completely. So while I was on observation, my first week in prison, I encountered a life flight. And the man got stabbed in his sleep. And it was the Latin Kings versus the Hebrew Israelites. And that was the first time I saw a man get stabbed in his sleep. And it was so crazy because I remember I was just being so green that I didn't even know what was going on. But I remember just sitting on my bunk and I was getting close to the Latin Kings already, and I was starting to have information of what was going on. And come to find out that there was a man in visitation doing some nasty things with a woman in front of another man's daughter. And they ended up going to the dorm, and I remember that they were saying that that was wrong, that was disgusting or whatever. And I remember that, they ended up fist fighting, and then the big heads ended up coming to the dorm, and there was just people in and out of the dorm. It looked like the projects, man. It was just crazy how prison was moving. It was just wide open. And I remember that they were trying to cause peace because these are 2 big organizations in the prison system, the Hebrew Israelites and the Almighty Land Kings. So if it will be the war, it'll be a great conflict. So I remember that the Kings wanted to have peace, but the other guy did not want peace because when they fought, he gave him a black eye. So I remember he was like, man, what you want to do? He was like, it's whatever you want to do. So he was like, all right, we're going to take it there. But the guy slept on the Latin King dude and he stabbed him in his sleep. And he said, pray to Yahweh now. And he went to just stabbing him. And he life flighted him. And when I witnessed this, I seen the blood everywhere. And all the police came in. And I remember I was trying to join them. So I wanted to help them. And I remember they told me, you just sit on your rack. And there was another man, his name was he has a life sentence. And he ended up fighting the police and he knocked one of the police out and they ended up jumping on him and they beat him up bad. Both those guys went to see him. One of the guys got life flighted to a helicopter to a hospital, almost lost his life. And the war broke out. And when I tell you that almost all the Latin Kings were getting shut down by the Hebrews, it was getting real bad. God is so good that he transferred me that following week before the true war broke out on that compound. And I remember I had a friend named who was a Latin King, and they almost killed him. They said that the rumor was that they broke his elbows and his knees and that he was hanging off the rail, on the top rail of the second floor on the dorm. And we was in our dorm. This was in ACI, in our dorm. A lot of you will know this dorm, and you know that our dorm was down the hill past the property room. And our dorm was full of killers, murderers, drug dealers, and addiction, and everything else that you could think of. So it was a very, very bad environment. And God transferred me to the West unit, and things kind of settled down. And I remember I was still in the process of becoming a Latin King, and I got put on probation. Now is my time, that was my time to prove myself worthy to these men. And I was just stabbing people, I was robbing, I was just trying to put a name for myself that men could fear me and respect me in prison. So when I walk around a compound, I'll be saluted or recognized. And I remember one time we had a brother named who knocked out a gangster disciple, and he was the head. And when he knocked him out, it was about a fan. So the gangster disciple was sick and he wanted the fans off. So Voodoo said, man, whoever turns on this fan, I'm gonna knock you out. So the gangster disciple goes into the booth and he tells the dude, he's like, hey, turn on the fans, he told the officer. So they turned on the fan. So Buddha said, man, who turned on this fan? So I remember the gangster disciple said, I turned it on. What you gonna do? And he knocked him out. So when he knocked him out, he fell and cracked his head open and his face was swole. And remember, this is the head of a gangster disciple, so you can only imagine how his brothers felt when they actually seen him on the compound. So we all went to rec, but before rec even got called, I remember walking and I seen one of my brothers coming up to me and he was like, yo, we're gonna go to war with the G's. And when I looked behind me, not even realizing what's going on, when I looked behind me, I seen about 70 to 100 G's, gangster disciples, ready to rock out, loading up. And it was only 7 Latin Kings on the compound and probably 3 probates. And I was with a brother named and I remember he told me, he said, go to Colombia and go get the knives. He said, we're going to war today. So I went and I got us some big old knives. I'm talking about machetes, rusty and all. I was making sure that we were going to do damage to them because I knew we were outnumbered. So I got the rustiest knife. And I remember when we was walking to the rec yard, told me, today you're going to prove yourself what you say you be saying. And I was like, all right. And that day, we went to the rec yard and it was just mayhem. We were just fighting, arguing, we were stabbing, and the police came, they were spraying, they made us get on the floor. They loaded up a bus. I ended up getting away, acting like I was doing pull-ups, and I sunk my knife into the dirt. And I went back to the dorm, and I remember I put my knife under the pillow, and there was already 3 gangster disciples there, and there was a Latin disciple that was in the dorm. His name was and he was my friend. He was cool people, man. He was Latino too, so he's like, yo, what's up, we good? And I was like, yeah, we all right. But I ain't trust them. And the other ones, the other 2 disciples, they were looking at me, and they were just not sure of what to do or whatever. But I kept it cool, and I just knew how to move to make sure I didn't get caught slipping. Well, come to find out that next morning they did a shakedown and they found the knife under my pillow, man. And they ended up putting me in the box. I did about 70-something days in the box. They didn't see me, thank God. And they walked me across the compound in my boxers, man. And the freezing cold, man, the embarrassment. And I remember I got sent to the main unit. And when I got sent to the main unit, I got out the box. And all the Latin Kings got put under investigation. I'm the only one on the compound with 2 other probates. And this was my moment of truth. I had something to prove off rip. I got me the biggest knife I could find. And I was gonna make sure that the Latin King name was still on the compound, right? So we got these probates and we're just walking around. We cutting people in canteen line. We letting them know, man, King's going first. This is what it is and this is what it ain't. And if anybody don't like it, y'all know it's up there. So everyone knew what time it was and they respected it. So I remember there was a guy named that I know out here from the streets. And he used to give me shrooms out here when I was a jitterbug. And I ended up seeing him, and he did not recognize me. And he sprung out on Tunchi on this time. And he's been on the compound for 5 days. And I remember he sign languaged me on the window. He's like, yo, you King? And I got offended off rip. And I was like, what's up? Who's you? And he was like, oh, I'm a King. So I was like, we'll be over there. So when we went over there, I was like, how you been on the compound for 5 days and now you just saying you a King? And he was like, oh no, I was just checking out the environment, da. And I was like, what camp you came from? And he said he came from Calhoun. Little did he know we had connections with other prisons in the state, in the Florida State prisons. So we called over there to Calhoun. They said green light him. That he ran away with 2 bombs. When a bomb is an ounce of tunchi or weed or molly, whatever it is. So now he ran away with a bomb of tunchi from the gangster disciples, and he ran away with a bomb of tunchi from the Latin Kings from the compound Calhoun, and he got transferred to us, and they wanted us to green light him. That means finish him. So I went and asked permission from my head at the time, who was in the box, named, and he was telling us no, that he owes him money. And I remember he owed him about $300. And he was just like, make sure he pay me my money by Friday. And I was like, all right. So I told him. And I remember he was just walking with us. you know, he got accustomed to us because I told him, I was like, yeah, you're going to be good, man. No one's going to do nothing to you. You're straight. I was like, as long as you pay the money, you're good. He's like, all right, man. And mind you, I told you that he was somebody that I knew out here in the street, and he did not recognize me because I was already tatted up. When I was out here in the street, I was skinny on drugs. So now I'm in prison. I got a little bulk, and I'm a little bit taller because I'm older. And I was like, you don't remember me, man? He's like, nah, man. He's like, damn, man, you do look familiar. I said, I'm his brother. And he was like, oh, yeah, man, I do know you. And he was like, Manito, please, man, on your face, man, tell the bros that, man, I'm good people, man, that I'm good, man. And I was like, yo, I got you, bro. I'm going to talk to them. So mind you, I go to my head and I speak to him. And I tell him, listen, I know this man from the street. He's just bad on drugs. I said, give him a chance, man, to bounce back. He was like, all right, now, if this comes back on you, it's going to be you that's going to get it. I said, don't worry. He's going to pay the money. He got you. That was the worstest mistake I ever did in my life. So now time comes by, I let him know, listen, you're good. You just need to pay the money and you're straight. No one's gonna mess with you, I promise. So Friday comes, he's avoiding me. And now I'm just like, man, I know this guy's not playing me, man. So while he's avoiding me, he goes to chow by himself, and usually he goes to chow with us. He's last in line. I'm thinking he's about to check in, going to protective custody. And then I remember he was like, I was like, yo, I was like, where you going? What you doing? He's like, oh, no, I'm about to get on the jack in quad 2. And I was like, there ain't no jack in quad 2. There's a jack in quad 4 with the 13s. I remember it was he's from Tampa, and I was real close to them. And they were going to let me use the jack so we could get this money transaction, right? And he was trying to go to another quad. And I was like, yo, what you doing, man? Ain't no jack over there. Yo, man, stop playing with me, man. We're going to go over here. So a blood comes up to us, and he's like, yo, what y'all doing with this man? He owes me money. And I was like, who he owe? I was like, he owe my brother $300. I said, he paying my brother first, and that's what it is. And he was like, $300? He was like, oh, man, he only owe me 50. He was like, yeah, man, y'all handle that. So we go to the room. We call his baby mama. I know from when I was out here in the street, and I was a jitterbug. She's an older woman. She used to call me baby daddy. And when we called her, and I told her what was going on, I told her it was me, and she was like, oh my God. And I was like, listen, I'm here right now, and he owes some money. I was like, if he pays the money, he's gonna be okay. And she snapped. She was like, I'm not paying no more money. He's dead, da da da. She hung up the phone. He tries to run out the room. And when he runs out the room, the 13 closes the door and go, and slams the door. Bang! He's locked in there with the lions now. And we just start devouring him. We beating him up. Bam, 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 bam. I remember the probate had a giant knife, about, I want to say at least almost a foot long, rusty. And he was going to stab him in the neck. And I stopped him because I know I'm in this room. And if I catch a body, if he kills him in this room, I'm going to catch his body as well. Now remember, I'm from the streets, so I'm super smart. I know how to get out of a situation, so I stopped him. And I was like, no, don't stab him, don't stab him. I remember I punched him in the nose, and his whole nose bursted. And I was just like, you don't ever disrespect the nation. You don't ever do what you did. What you doing stealing? You crazy? You don't do that, da, da, da. He was crying, saying sorry. And I was told him, I was like, you get up out this room while I had this man kill you. You understand me? And stop playing with money. And he went on about his business. Well, tell me how this crazy mother sucker goes to a whole nother dorm, and he's telling a whole nother gang how these flakes beat him up, because his whole face was messed up. We damaged him bad. And we were like, oh, really? Oh, yeah? So we going to chow. His dorm was in front of us. And I said, and he looks at me. And I said, these flakes is coming to see you after chow. And he goes right up to the officer, and he points at me. He said, hey, man, that man's trying to kill me. And they put him in cuffs and put him in a cage. And I was like, what you doing? And he was telling me to suck his private part. He was like, mama beat you, la, la, la. And I was like, yo. So in that time frame, I had a brother named from Little Havana, an older Cuban man, psychotic. He will stab you in a heartbeat. He gets transferred to my compound, and he sees what's going on. He takes over, and now I'm under his wing because he's been in the nation for so long. And he was a very good brother, man. He treated me real good. He told me I was like the son he never had, man. I know about his whole life. He never opens up to anybody. He's a real soul that's real dark, man. I pray for that man. And I remember he was gonna start a war again with the Hebrew Israelites. And mind you, we're back in our dorm, and I remember he's trying to get the door popped, right? And he's like, yo, he's telling the runaround, open the door, open the door. The runaround's a Hebrew Israelite. And he's like, man, on my time, I don't do it on your time. He's like, what? So he's screaming to who was a probate at the time. He's telling him, give me the knife, give me the knife. So he's telling him, give him the knife. I tell no, because I didn't want my brother to go. I loved him. I didn't want him to go rock out, crash out like that. And I didn't want another war to break out. So he still gives him the knife. The door swing. Mind, just early in the morning, man. You gotta wake up and have your shoes on, off rip. You gotta be prepared. There's no slipping. If you lacking, you're dead. So I remember I went out there and he's telling the dude, one of the other Hebrew Israelites, and he's like, hey man, you disrespecting my brother. Said, I don't care if that was your sister. He's like, when I say pop that door, you pop that door. And he took out that knife. And when they seen that knife, I was like, yo. I was like, listen, man. I was like, listen, my brother's crazy, man. Just let it go. Just let it be. And they let it go. So mind you, that same night, we sitting and eating Cuban crackers and we drinking coffee. And I remember some dude comes up to us and laughs in our face. And looks at me. He goes, did he just laugh at us? And I was like, oh, man. I said, nah, man, don't think about it like that, man. Don't think about it like that. He was like, I got something for him. I had a crazy little white boy bunkie, man, bugged out. And
excuse me.
I remember my bunkie used to talk to the walls. So he was a little psyched out. He was burnt out in the brain. And that same dude was in my room. I'm on the top tier looking down. And I see him talking to my bunkie in the room. And I look to the side and I see coming after him like a shark. And I see the knife in the jacket. And I was like, oh, man. So I go downstairs, and I was like, hey, listen, man, get out my room for my brother coming here. Beat him to the punch. He's like, you laughed in my face last night? And the guy was like, no, never. He's like, so you calling me a liar? And he was like, oh, he didn't even know what to say. And he slapped him. Bah! He slapped him so hard, the man starts bleeding out his nose. When he turned around, stabbed him in his butt. Stabbed him in his a-hole, man. And then he was gonna stab him in the face, and I stopped him. I said, yo, what are you doing? I'm in the room, what you doing? He's like, you'll be under investigation, you'll be fine, you'll get out. I'm like, nah, man, I don't wanna go to the box at all, man. I just got out the box. So, mind you, the dude just got stabbed in his butt. We send him to his room and we tell him, you're not allowed to go out and eat chow, nothing. And we gave him a super day until he healed up. And I remember, man, I got transferred, and throughout that time, man, I got transferred back to the West Unit. Now, mind you, I'm in the main unit and I'm around the West Unit and the main unit is a whole different environment, right? So the West Unit was a little bit more calm. So when I came back from the main unit, I was wild. I had this crazy ambition of just like this thugness, this wildness. And when I brought that to the West Unit, even the officers were like, Valle, I don't know what you going on, but you must want to go back to the main unit. And the compound was sweet. You could walk around, door swinging and stuff, you know. But I didn't care, man. I was just violating, doing whatever. It's count time and I'm walking around the compound with a $100 bag canteen and a knife on me. And I'm passing on phones and drugs and transferring this and that. I didn't care. And I remember I called a DR, man. They sent me back to the main unit. And I remember I ended up getting transferred to Blackwater because I was in M dorm, murder dorm. And what had happened was before I got transferred was there was a murder in front of us. And it was a gangster disciple and a Crip. They knew each other from the street. And I remember that they were best friends, man. Their mothers knew each other. They slept at each other's houses. They knew each other since little kids. And they're smoking Molly at this time. And at this time, man, Molly was had us so geeked up. We'll be up till 5, 6 in the morning all day, just smoking Molly. Well, sometimes the Molly comes with meth and ice. And so I remember the Crip, he ended up gooking out. He ended up twacking out and he stabbed his homeboy, man, freaking out. So there was a head of the G's in that dorm. His name was and I remember, man, this guy, I look in his eyes and I see the demon. He was a killer. He did not play. And I remember he took control of the situation, and he was like, he stabbed you? And he's like, yeah, man, but he's my brother from the street, man. He was like, I don't give a damn. He's like, ain't nobody gonna stab a gangster and get away with it. So he was like, you either gonna stab him or you gonna get stabbed. So the gangster disciple ended up checking in for the love he had for his friend, man. He did not want to stab him. He ended up checking in. He went under the protector's custody. But the white boy who was a Crip, it wasn't going nowhere. And he said these exact words, and those words brought, man, they bit him. He said, man, y'all gonna have to kill me if y'all wanna get me from around here. And I remember, I'll never forget it. They were like, oh yeah, we gotta kill you? And I remember they went to their lockers and they packed up their stuff and they wrapped themselves up with the canteen bags. And I remember they had the biggest knives in the dorm, real sharp and heavy duty. And I remember, man, they went after him and they got a group of him and they kept hitting him and hitting him and hitting him and hitting him. And we're all sitting on our racks and we're watching this. And I remember, like, I seen a few stabbings already. But it's another thing when you see somebody just gruesomely just murdering. It's like, boom, you're like, I was like, oh my God. They just kept going and going, stabbing them. The man said, I feel my life leaving my body. And he was just so, like, just dead limp. And I remember, man, they kept stabbing him. They left him under the chest table. And there was blood everywhere. And they locked us down, man. And when they locked us down, there was a murder in our dorm. That was the first murder I ever witnessed in front of me in my whole life. And mind you, at that point in time, I had my own demons. I was psycho too. I thought I was about that life. Man, that put me in check. I was on bunk check. Nobody got off their bunks, witnessing a soul leave from their body. So now, you know, we get shook down, whatnot, and we had a little thing going on. And it was the Bloods across from us and all the Latinos over here. And there was a nieta named Flaco, a Latin syndicate named we call him, and he was the plug for the dorm. And we had a 27 that was with us. His name, man, God bless him, man. And I remember, man, we were just out there wilding, man. We were just doing whatever, and we were just doing moves for them, whatever. And they caught on to us. So when they caught on to us, they basically indicted us, man. They came through, they locked us all up on the investigation. I did 90 days on the investigation, 90 days in the box. I was 180 pounds when I went in. I got out the box 160 pounds. My homeboy saw me. He was a Haitian. And he was like, damn, boy, you look like you got the shits. Talking about AIDS, I looked sick. I couldn't eat the food. They kept feeding me rat patty, none but nasty beans, canned cabbage. That's all they kept giving us. And I remember I got out that box and I got transferred to Blackwater. And when I got transferred to Blackwater, I remember it's a private camp and it's all closed in. And I ended up becoming a Muslim at this time, right? And I got close to the Muslim community. And, you know, we, another man, his name was, and he was a Hebrew Israelite too. This is crazy. And he ended up stealing from my room. He stole a cheese squeeze and a Danish. And he used to gamble. And he used to always ask me, yo, man, let me get this, let me get that. You know, I'm going to bring it back. And I believed in him because he used to gamble so good. He'll come back with a big boy bag. I'll just give him like $2. So this time he's smoking tunchi. He sprung out and he's asking me for some canteens, for some money. And I told him no because I didn't want him smoking dope. So he ends up going in my room, stealing my cheese squeeze and my Danish. So come to find out, one of my Muslim brothers, I see that my stuff is like weird because I have my stuff organized. And I'm like, damn, what the hell? And somebody told me he went in my room and took it. And now I'm having a meeting. And mind you, I got one of my ex-Latin King brothers from Jacksonville, who was a jack boy. He was a godson who used to be the second for the Latin Kings of the state prison, right? So I remember we had a couple other Muslims in the room too, and we were having a meeting, and he kept walking back and forth from the room because the way the rooms is, they got a big window at the door. And when I seen them, they were like, chill, 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 chill. And I was like, man, F that. So I went and I was like, yo, come here, bro. I was like, bro, you stealing, bro? And he tells me, oh, who you booting up on? So that confirmed that, yeah, he did steal from me. So, you know, we had a few words, and then the Latin King dude was like, hey, man, y'all rapping too much. Start gridding. So we went to gridding. Boom. We start fighting. Bam, 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 bam. I remember I punched him so hard, his head hit the wall. Boom. And he hit me back too now. He hit me back. And I remember I dodged it and I picked him up and I boomed him. And we had tables in the rooms at Blackwater. And I boomed him to the corner of the table. And his spinal cord and his kidneys and everything hit the corner of this table. And he went, ah! Tell me how one of the Muslims came right behind me while he was like this. And he stole him, split his whole eye, wide open, blood everywhere. And we just started jumping on him, jumping him. And I had the knife on me. And I forgot that I gave the knife to somebody else. And I was looking, when he was curled up, I was looking for the knife to stab him. And I couldn't find the knife. And I was like, you lucky I ain't got this knife. And I went on the top bunk and I jumped on his back. Boom! And then, mind you, everybody came, they broke up the fight. There's blood all over me. And I remember I was like, yo, you gotta go. And he was like, who gonna leave? I ain't going nowhere. Y'all gotta kill me. Another one, say this crazy stuff. So like, I'm kind of shocked that he's even still going like this, because I like literally just beat this man to a pulp. And I remember he ends up getting into it with a ZMF. And him and the ZMF about to go through it. He has the stick, he has the knife. Now it's not even my war no more. He's going through it with the Z's now. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on, man? Well, somebody de-escalated the situation and everybody ended up going in peace. And I remember I seen him the next day walking like this. And I felt so bad for him, man. Because I know him. This guy used to write books. He used to write poems. He used to write me his dreams and stuff. I'd be like, damn, man. I was like, yo, man, you real knowledgeable, man. I was like, man, yo. But it sucked because he had a life sentence and he couldn't put this into action. So I knew who he really was, man. A man with potential. But the Tunchi, the drugs, ended up dragging him down, breaking him. And I remember I seen him walking like this the next day, and I felt so bad for him. And I went up to him, and I was like, yo, man. I was like, yo, bro, you good? He was like, yeah, man. He was like, man, I'm pissing and shit in blood. And I was like, damn, man. I was like, yo, man, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what it was, man. God put something in my heart, man, to just have compassion for this man. And he forgave me. But I didn't trust him because he was a little low-key evil, man. And he ended up making these giant knives and he was selling them. And I thought that he was going to stab me to get revenge, but he never did. He ended up getting beat up by the police trying to get an extra tray. When the police came, he tried to get an extra tray. The police said, I seen you get the tray already. So he's like, nah, man, I ain't get no tray, da, da. So, kind of find out, they hit the button. Bam! They all come. The police pick him up, slam him. Mind you, he already got arrested. He's already walking like this, but he's booting up. The police pick him up and slammed him. Bam! And they start beating him. They beating him up in front of us. And I never seen that man again. So, after that, I have a bunkie named Chain Gang legend. And he did 25 years. And he was sentenced to a 5-year sentence, I believe, or a 10-year sentence. And he ended up catching a body, was stabbing a man with a knife that was dipped in manure. And when he stabbed the man with the manure, it ended up giving him an infection inside his body. So that's when they gave him 25 years in total. And now this man was my bunkie. And he was real grumpy old man. And he was about to go home. And I remember somebody stole his sweater. He cleaned the sweater. He put it on the table. It was drying out. Someone stole it. So someone ends up telling who stole it. Because it's about 80 men in the dorm. Somebody's going to see something. So they told us who stole it. So Ronnie Rumps put it on his boots. He old as heck. I don't know what he think he going to do. So I was like, yo, you my bunkie, man. I'm going to take care of that. So we go. I go up to the dude. He's sleeping on the top bunk. And me and my brother go in there. And he drags the dude off the bunk from his feet. The dude falls. Go slaps him in his face. Boom! And the dude's like, oh, hell no. And we're like, oh, you want to boot up? We went to beating him up. Bum, 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 bum. And he was like, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. So he had a friend that was associated with him, right? So after that, we were like, get on the door. He packed his stuff. He left. So after that, we seen the next guy that was associated with him with this, right? So we were like, oh, you like stealing, huh? So he's like, nah, man, that wasn't me, man. That was him. So we beat him up in there. Bum, bum, bum. I remember we was slapping him up. We didn't even beat him up. I remember we was just slapping him. And we slapped him. We were like, you like stealing? Bum, bum. And his homeboy came, right? And his homeboy was like, what's going on? What's going on? Like, he was ready to boot up. And we were like, this nigga stealing. And whoever with him gonna get it too. And when he seen the pressure that was coming off of us, that it was for real, he was like, oh, you stealing? Hell nah. He ended up beating up his friend, man. He beat up his own friend on the toilet, and he was just covered up. He went to beating him up. I remember I packed up the dude's mat. I threw it out the door. And I remember I was standing by the stairs with a knife. And I was like, yo, you gonna check in? I remember he went up to the officer and he was like, man, I can't live here no more. He was like, the officer said, why? He was like, man, I can't live here no more. And I remember I was like, he like to steal, man, and he ain't living in here no more. Then I remember the officer seeing how serious I was. I wasn't even playing. And the officer looked at me and looked at him. He was like, man, you stupid, man. You trying to get yourself killed? He's like, come on, man. And he took him, he put him under protective custody. I never seen that man ever again. Now, mind you, after that, I get moved to Open Bay. And at this time, I'm real. I buy a jack. And I'm on Molly too. And the man that sold me this jack told me, he said, boy, you're going to be seeing demons. And I never understood what he meant. Now, mind you, now I'm a target. I got this dang cell phone, man. But I had a good little crew with me that was going to make sure that ain't nothing happened, you know what I'm saying? But I had a friend named... I'll never forget him. He has about 23 years to do. And there was a Crip named... And before I got transferred from here, this situation, this man ends up calling the hotline, the security hotline, to give information about was doing his thing in the prison, making money. He was bringing a bomb. He was making money. He had cell phones. We were hacking tablets. Man, we were doing it all. I'm talking about he charged me $50 to hack my tablet. I was putting movies on there, porn on there, and we were selling our tablets, you know, renting it out for $3 for 15 minutes, $5 for like 25 minutes, and so on. So I remember that Bunky ended up coming up to us with the man's jack, the cell phone, and he's showing us the messages of him reporting what the names and everything. And it wasn't just reported. And I remember came up to me, he was like, bro, this man called the hotline on me, man. And I was like, what? Now, mind you, these two men are supposed to be like this, homeboys, brothers. But it was always an envy between them because one makes more money than the other. And he was like, man, what do I do? And I was like, man, you don't want to hear my answer, man, because I care about you, bro, and I don't want you to leave me, man, because he ended up becoming my close friend. And I remember he's ZMF, so he called his head and ate on him. Like, man, handle your business. So sure enough, he's smoking Tunchi. He twacks out on the bed. My bro gives him a knife. And when he got the knife, I remember he stabbed him in his sleep. He stabbed him in his face and his arms and his chest. He was like, boom, 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 and up. Like, oh. And he was bleeding. And he couldn't believe that he just got stabbed. I remember he was holding his face and everybody was just like watching. And me and another Muslim brother, his name, we were gonna rob him for his phone. But the situation escalated so crazy that I didn't even make a move. I just let everything play it out. And because I saw when he put the phone inside his pocket, so I was like, damn, I'm not gonna be able to get that phone like that. It's gonna be a little bit hard because this man's pretty big. So I just let everything play it out. And the white boy, he had a white boy who was like his little maid, man. And he was like, go get my knife. And the white boy goes inside the trash can and get this sharp black knife. I don't know where he got this thing from, man. It looked like a blade from the street. You could tell that this knife in for this man, yo. And I remember already threw his knife away, thinking that the police was gonna come. The police did not come at all. That's how scared. They were short staffed in Blackwater, so there was like no officers. And we had a female officer, old lady. Man, she was so scared she didn't know what to do. And when they noticed that the officers weren't coming, all hell broke loose, man. chasing this man with a knife, and he's trying to stab him. This man has the trash can blocking everything, and the police finally came, man, and got them to calm down. They ended up locking them, going to the box. So me and another ZMF dude, we ended up getting mad at the white boy. The white boy's still there, and he's trying to pack up. And we's like, bro, you get that man a knife to stab our brother? So he's like, oh man, I don't, BAM! Man, we just started wailing that dude, man. I remember I grabbed his tablet and I broke his tablet. We put him on the door. We beat that man up so bad, and we put him on the door, man. He ended up telling on us, and they never came and locked us up or nothing. And I ended up getting strung out on ice for 2 weeks. My Latin King brother told me, he was like, I'll give you 350s for $25 of this ice. He's like, you could flip it and make your money back double. So I was like, all right. I was like, hell yeah, all right, yeah. I was the barber at the time. I was in barber class. Now, mind you, man, my seat was lit. We had everybody coming in the barber class. So I ended up doing the ice. And I remember I got hooked on it. I did it for 2 weeks straight. I did not sleep. I was seeing things. And I remember a female officer came up to me, and she was telling me something that she was like, I don't care how crazy you is. She was like, yo, she was like, I'm gonna spray you. And I told her, I was like, lady, you spray me? I was like, I'm telling you, don't spray me. And I'm already geeked up, and she's messing with a ZMF dude. And I remember he ended up going home already. I remember he's the runaround too for the dorm. So he's like, bro, what's up, bro? Why you messing with my bitch? Da, da. And I was like, man, I don't care about none of that, man. What's up? And they all came after me. And I had this big, long ice pick. So I remember I was just standing there. They ain't never come do nothing to me. They called the officers. I could see through the window that they all coming. I go to the toilet. I flush the ice pick. And when I flushed the ice pick, they ended up taking me to the hallway, and they put me in the box. And while I'm in the box, they put me in the room with a punk. Now, mind you, this punk knows it's from Tampa, and he knew my baby mama. So he called him. So he's like, oh man, before I'm even going in there, I'm walking up the stairs, and everybody's like, hey man, they got a sissy in that room, man. They got a sissy in that room. So I'm just like, y'all chill, man. I know how to handle the situation. I'm gonna get him out the room. So kind of find out, he's like, yeah, I know your baby mama, I know your sister, because I have twins. So he tells me he knows my kids too, and I'm like, what? So he had a Bible in there, and he's struggling with fighting the demon of this of homosexuality. So, man, mind you, I'm in this stage where I'm in darkness. And I remember I was just like, man, God don't like that, man. That's abomination, man. I was like, it's not good, da, da, da. But he's praying and stuff, and he's trying to, you know what I'm saying? And then we was in there for 2 days. And I remember he ended up going through a psycho moment, man. I wake up out of my sleep, and he's just sitting there. And he tells me, it's going to be okay, Danny. It's going to be okay. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm just not comfortable with this. So now I start thinking crazy. I'm like, yo, what this dude got going on, man? This dude crazy? What the hell? So he's just like, this ain't going to work out. This ain't going to work out. So I'm just like, yo, Sky, yo, what's up with you, man? Chill out, yo, chill. So he was like, I just need to be in a room by myself. I was like, all right, so you tell the officer you need to get out the room, because I ain't going nowhere. So I remember he went to the officer. The officer was walking by. He bangs on the window. Bum, bum, bum. And he's like, hey, I need to move out this room. So the officer looks in the room with the flashlight. He's like, you ain't going nowhere. He's like, beat each other up. So I jump off the bunk. I was like, yeah, I already know what to do. So I jump off the bunk. And when he see me jump off the bunk, he goes back to the door. He's like, please let me out. Please, I don't want him to hurt me. I kind of felt bad for him. So I was like, listen, man, just keep bicycle kick the door, keep kicking the door, and they're going to move us out the room. This man flooded the cell, put the sheets inside the toilet, flooded the cell. They ended up moving us. They moved me out the room. So come to find out, I get put on loaf for a week. And I don't know if y'all know what loaf is, but loaf is like this mushed up food, man. Just nasty, just nastiness, nasty. corn with the beans and the cornbread with the greens, and it's just nasty, man. And they leave it in the fridge for months and months. It just stays frozen for months and months and months in the kitchen. So I remember they served me that, and I was like, man, what the F is this, man? And they were like, hey, man, that man said that you tried to kick him out the room, man, that you harmed him. I said, what? So I got the flap open. I'm like, Scott, man, how you gonna tell these people that lie, man? What the hell? Now I'm put on straight. He's like, I didn't say that. I was like, golly, man. So I had to wear it. So now I get transferred to they transferred me back to I went to home CI. And when I went to home CI, man, I remember when I got there, off rip, the Latin Kings knew that I got there, right? And this is a completely different environment, completely different compound. And it's brothers that I never seen here before. And for some reason, man, God was transforming my life in the box. And I kept reading the Bible. And I just kept submitting, repenting to the Lord. And I was asking him to forgive me for everything I've done. And I got clean. I wasn't doing no more drugs. And I'm back on grind mode again. I'm a lion stepping again on the compound. So now when I get back, a Latin King comes up to me. He's like, you Danny boy? And I was like, yeah. He's like, your dad a Latin King? I said, yeah. He's like, yeah, they were just talking about you up front, man. He was like, you straight. And I was like, all right. And I ignored him and I went to reading my Bible. I kept reading my Bible. And I remember, man, I don't know what happened, man, but I ended up growing tight with this dude, man. His name was He got a life sentence. He's fighting his case right now. And all it took was that one hit of marijuana and I was back into the drugs, man. Suboxone, ice, Molly, Tunchi, weed, buck. If you don't know what buck is alcohol in the prison system that we make with fruits and sugar. And man, I was just on everything, man. I'm talking about, and I owed so much money. And man, I was just embarrassing myself, man. And I remember that I kept on money. And I had a dream that I got stabbed in my neck. So I get paranoid. So now I'm paranoid of what's going on or whatever. And I'm in a re-entry dorm. And while I'm in this re-entry dorm, the Muslims are trying to help me bounce back. But they couldn't, man. I just didn't feel nothing with that, man. They couldn't help me. You know, so they shunned me again. And I ended up getting moved to another dorm. And the head of the Kings was in that dorm. His name was and he was by himself. But he knows me very well. He know of me. And I ended up growing attached to this man. And he embraced me. And he was like, whatever you did out there, stay out there. He's like, in here, we stick together. And you're going to get clean. And I was like, all right. And I had a chance, man, to bounce back and clean my face. And I did. He helped me pay my debts. I went to working out again. And out of nowhere, man, I kid you not, they say it's good luck when a bird shit on you. A bird shitted on me, man, on the way to child, man, and ended up transferring. I got transferred at 3 in the morning. Out of nowhere, 3 in the morning, transfer. And I was asking God, I said, God, please get me out of this compound. I was like, I don't want to be here no more. People getting stabbed left and right. Brothers stabbing brothers. It was never no gang war there. It was always nation against itself. And they were just cleaning house. That's what they were doing, cleaning house. Getting rid of the people that were no good. And there was a guy who was a Latin King for a very, very long time. He was from New York. He was bloodline. And he never liked the KMC movement with the Latin Kings, man. So he always felt like he had his own rules and regulations to follow. But he ended up backstabbing the wrong Latin King. And I remember he ended up telling me, he was like, man, he came up to me one day, he was on ice. And he was like, yo, you lucky you ain't a king no more, man. He was like, I'll finish you. I remember I looked at him, and in my head I knew I could devour this dude, man. But I was like, man, I ain't even gonna do it to him, man. I ignored him. And tell me how this man ends up stealing from his brother and got sliced in the face, $150. Mind you, he's from New York, so a slice in the face means that you a snitch. So, oh my God, I know it's killing him to this day to have a scar on his face like that. So he ended up getting taken out the picture. And I remember my bunkie was the head of the Unforgivens. His name was He's a real cool, humble dude, man. And he was just like, man, you want me to move you to the military dorm? The veteran dorm? And I was like, yo, you could do that? He's like, yeah. So I ended up going to the military dorm, and that's when I got transferred. And when I got transferred, I ended up going to Hardy CI, Party Hardy, and it's murder capital. And I know they were killing people left and right in that prison, man. And that's a CM camp too as well. And I remember that I ended up joining the church there. And I remember I gave my life to God there, and it was just amazing, man. And God changed everything, the way I think, the way I see everything. And then I'm giving my heart in Christ to God, man. And I remember I just felt like there was no hope in that time. I felt like I was gonna go home as a junkie, drugged out. And man, God liberated me, man, from the drugs that was in there, man. And I remember I was walking a straight path with the Lord in there. I ended up going home from Hardy CI. And man, God was good. There was no drama in that camp. God protected me. And everything that I was witnessing was with other people, stabbings, murders, seen people get killed. And God protected me through all that, man. Through that compound. That was the worst compound I've been to, with the most murders and violence. And God protected me. He kept his hand over me. And I had no problems in that compound. I went home from that compound. And I remember Ricky ended up picking me up from the prison, man. Took me out to eat with my family and stuff. And it was just a blessing, man. And yeah, man, that's how I ended up going to prison and how I got out, man. Just madness. But God is good.
And how you doing now? What's been going on since you've been out? How long you been out? And how has your transition home been?
I've been out 8 months now, and I'm doing real good. I'm part of Block Hustle Entertainment with E.I. the King. I thank the brother. You know, he embraced me as soon as he met me. I was with the Jack Burrell Foundation as well, the prison ministry as well, and they embraced me as well and took me under. And I'm still doing the Lord's work, man. We're doing ministry out here. And one day I hope I could go back to prison ministry. We could go back in there and speak life into the men that needs freedom. What's up, man? My name is Daniel, and this is the Incarceration Podcast.
And listen, if you've done any time, I'm talking about a county jail, state penitentiary, federal, or even drug programs, whatever. If you want to share your story on this channel, go ahead and email me at eithekingbooking. Go ahead and put your stories in the comments below. If there's anything that I talked about slightly, you want me to go more in depth on, or anything I haven't talked about at all, and it's a good idea, drop it in the comments. Let me know. And also remember, I am a rapper. My artist name is E.I. the King. You can find my music on all platforms. I also have another channel, YouTube channel, my official artist channel, E.I. the King. And I also have another podcast. It's called Let Me Talk Bro, where I talk more so about my life, music, ministry, and all these things. Also, I have a Patreon with exclusive content. Everything is in the description below. So listen, man, till the next time, it's your boy, E.I. the King.